To make sure we're treating both sides equally, I couldn't resist including some flawless retouching skin techniques for men as well. So on this model, I'll zoom in with Command plus or Control plus a few times so I can get a good look at those eyebrows. And as the term was coined, we want to make him more metrosexual, meaning he does a lot of self-grooming. I believe that occurred in a Sports Illustrated article. We're going to look at, again, my favorite beauty retouching tool. I live for the patch tool, and it just wipes the years away. Although with older shots, I will bring some of the original wrinkles back very often because I have earned my wrinkles. I don't want everything I do to look worked on. I just want it to look like a better shot of me. But with this gentleman, I'm going to use the patch tool to actually remove his entire eyebrow. Now bear with me, it's a little shocking at first. With the patch tool, I make a rough selection around the first eyebrow, and I'm not doing both together because I can only repair with what other skin I have to work with on the image. So I get in the middle of this eyebrow I've selected, and I drag to solid skin. You may notice there's a little mole or spot up here that's being duplicated. I'll fix that once I've wiped out the eyebrow. So as I drag up and let go, Photoshop seamlessly blends away that eyebrow. There's this spot that was duplicated, so I'll remove it. I'm going to remove everything to start, and then I will carefully bring back the details I'd like to keep. So I make rough selections using the patch tool with skin to repair skin. Being very careful not to include the eyelashes. This gentleman has enviable eyelashes. I wish mine were that long. So just quick rough selections. And now he looks a little bit alien, but what we're going to do is paint back where the eyebrows were. So that's when I use the all-powerful, yet very underutilized History Brush tool. With the History Brush, I'll make it as big as I want the eyebrows to be. So I'm guesstimating based on the radius of my brush, the roundness of it, how much eyebrow I want to bring back. I'll click once, and there is the original eyebrow back. And I only paint in what I want to keep. If too many of these stray hairs are coming in, I will undo that and start painting a little lower. But I may need to undo more than once, so I'll choose Edit Step Backward to get to my multiple undos and just start a little lower, being very careful to let go of my mouse often. That way I have an undo. That way I don't wipe out everything I've done if I mess up at the very last moment. Now he's still got a fairly masculine eyebrow, but it's cleaned up. I'll do the same on the opposite side, guesstimating roughly where his eyebrow originally started and painting that back in. I could use my left bracket on my keyboard to make this brush smaller. That way I could paint in a little less. And you'll notice I completely omitted the stray hairs that were in the middle there. I could do the same thing under the eyes, but with men, wrinkles actually make them more distinguished. And I learned recently in a leadership course, the most trusted hair color of any person in North America is gray, specifically gray on a man. So making the wrinkles actually more pronounced or making him look more rugged makes a more trusted shot because the gray shows experience. Unfortunately, it's not the same for women. I'll go back to my patch tool and I'll select this little imperfection on his mouth and just drag that up. So now his mouth is flawless. And if I don't love the hairs that are going all the way down his neck, I can use the same process. Patch, drag down to replace. Now this is going to start to look artificial, but that's okay. My history brush will allow me to fix it. And I do want to keep the Adam's apple there for him because, again, I feel that makes him look more masculine. There's a lot of subjective control that goes into creating a flawless face, either on a man or a woman. Just remember to get their permission before you go too far. Most women will be happy you've done a little bit of this work. So you could see with those stray hairs very close to the chin, it's not doing a great job because it is blending away. I can patch several times, but I think I'm mostly happy with this. Now what I'm going to do is bring those hairs back, but subtly in small percentages. So on the history brush, my opacity is 100%. That says, how much of the original would you like to paint back? I'm going to dial that down to around 25%, and then click here to make the brush go away. I'm going to hit the right bracket key on my keyboard until my brush is huge, or simply dial up a really big brush size, about as big as the area where the hairs originally occurred. I'll click away, and now my first paint stroke down here brings back 25% of those stray hairs. My second paint stroke brings back 50%. My third would bring back 75%. I'm going to undo the third because I really want it to be more subtle. So I've made the shot better for me, but still kept him looking rugged and natural. I might even paint 25% back of the stray hairs there. And finally, I'll finish up by bringing out the brown in his eyes. So I'll go to the dodge tool, which is a photography term for lightning. I'll hit 2 on my keyboard just by itself without clicking anywhere for 20% opacity, and I'll simply sweep a few times in that brown to reveal the natural brown color that you would see if he was looking directly into a light. I also might use my left bracket next to the letter P on your keyboard to make the brush size smaller and whiten the eye whites a bit, just to improve the contrast between light and dark, to make the eyes more of a focal point. Now, I've done about 6 minutes of retouching. If I go to my history panel, here is the before shot, here is the after shot. I like my after a lot. Opinions will vary, but before, after. The last note of warning, just be very delicate on those eye whites. It's very easy to go too far. I see many real estate shots where their eye whites look like glowing alien shots. So if you go too far on the eye whites, use your history brush. I might even try 1 for 10% and just soften the whitening ever so slightly so it looks more realistic. Before, after. Before the soften, after the soften. Very subtle. Try the patch tool, the history brush with percentages, and the dodge tool to do some beauty retouching on a man's face on your own.